GM all, welcome to another edition of Coach's Corner with Funky, aka Coach Kuji, and we are here today very honored to have a special guest, the one, the only JPThor, a conversation that many in the Kujira community have wanted to happen. So really excited to present this to you. This is being simulcast on both X and on YouTube. So be sure to make sure you share the space right now. If you're watching on X, just go ahead and repost it, like it, ask comments, anything like that, because that'll help drive it in the algo. I'm actually going to post it to my other account right now. So the other thing too you want to be aware of is we can take questions, but we're going to try and focus on questions and comments in the last third of the show today. I already have some questions that have come from the actual community that were taken up on Wednesday when I made the announcement. So please go ahead and keep those things coming in. But otherwise, JP, welcome to Coach's Corner. Really excited to have you here. And I'm just personally curious because I got to start somewhere. As someone who is a big fan here in the US of military veterans, people who support and serve, I saw that cool post where you were just like on a deck or something like that, and you're in a jumpsuit. So you have some kind of history as a pilot. Can you tell us just a little bit more about that and like how that became part of your life? That seems like such an interesting and unique part of your story.
Yeah, sure. So I always loved aviation, always loved flying. And I initially studied aeronautical engineering. And then I joined the Air Force. Well, about the same time, joined the Air Force and did fighter stream. So I was at fighters for 3 years, flying Hawks and Hornets. And then I switched over to bombers, did bombers for 3 years, flew that around the world. And then I retired and got into crypto.
I saw too that you have, like, I just caught it the other day. There's like some helicopter that you have on order that you're gonna then like take and do.
Oh, yeah, so I've been flying helicopters for 3 years, and then I bought ACH 130 in England a year and a half ago, and then I flew it from England to Australia. Still got that, and I've flown all over Australia. I've flown up to Tokyo. I've flown to Singapore Air Show. Just got back from New Zealand, and I'm planning to fly both helicopters around the world. So one filming the other. I'm actually looking for a second pilot at the moment, and we'll go Australia, Mount Everest, North Pole, down through America, across the Drake Passage, into the South Pole, over the South Pole, up to New Zealand, back to Australia again. So 2 helicopters, one film the other. So that helicopter that I'm getting in the year, that's the camera bird. So that will be filming my other chopper.
That is awesome. Hey, if any pilots are out there, please get in touch with JP. He may be interested. We already have almost 100 people watching, so thank you for tuning in. Again, please go ahead and share this if you're watching on X. Repost it. Let's try and get as many of the THORchain and Kujira community together today for this conversation, because we're merging into one happy family. JP, tell us a little bit more about how you discovered crypto and what actually like piqued your curiosity about it and why you wanted to get into this space.
So it was August 2013. Bitcoin was 150 bucks US, and I was at a tech meetup, and someone was pitching a Bitcoin exchange. So I was like, what the heck's this? I went home, Googled it, read the Bitcoin white paper, and said, this is going to change the world. Threw some of my savings into it. And then over the next 6 months, I went from 100 bucks all up to 800. MTGOX got hacked. Then I went all the way down again. I moved my Bitcoins from MTGOX to BTC before the hack. But then the FDIC's BTCE 1 year later. And so I got all my coins rugged off me. And then I started building Bitcoin wallets. They were all banned off the App Store. And then in 2016, found Ethereum. And then started coding it, and then I decided to start building full-time in 2017, left the Air Force.
So is that why, like THORchain, what I know about it, and one of the things, because I did hold some Rune tokens in the previous bull run, I didn't know all that much, but my wife, she is a hardcore Bitcoiner. Like we still keep most of our portfolio in Bitcoin. And, you know, that's the one thing I found really interesting is that you could take with THORchain native Bitcoin and then move it to some other protocol and do that kind of swap. So is that what attracted you to building THORchain in the first place? Because there was no decentralized option to do this?
Yeah, at the time in 2016, 17, everyone was talking about atomic swaps, where basically do these on-chain transactions between 2 different UTXO chains. And then this convoluted series of proving ownership of various secrets, you unlock the UTXOs and basically swap at some market rate. That never eventuated. And we're looking into it, I realized that was never going to float. So in June 2017, I participated in the Bancor ICO, and Bancor was supposed to deliver on the vision of decentralized liquidity. I also participated in the ASWAP ICO, the Kyber ICO, and a bunch of others that year. But none of them, when Bancor finally released the first product in January 2018, December 2017, I was listing tokens on it, and I found it very convoluted and just a really bad implementation. And I decided, hang on a minute. One, the future is multi-chain and not just ERC20s. And two, I can do a better job. So January to March 2018, the next big event was Binance were releasing the Binance DEX. And I said, surely this thing's going to involve liquidity pools and, some cool stuff like that. But it wasn't. It was just a Cosmos chain dialed up to the max with 300 millisecond block times with the limit order book on it. I'm like, that's retarded. Like, no one's going to use it. Like, you're not using a blockchain correctly, and it's going to lead to the centralizing effects and crazy state growth, and there's no giant user experience change, and no one's going to use it. So at that point, I was like, that's it. I'm going to build it, and it's going to be liquidity pools, cross-chain, and and just properly decentralized as well. So 2018 started building it.
So THORchain has evolved a lot. Like, it seems over time between just like
no one has it.
Well, okay, then please correct me then.
It's matured a lot, but the vision is still the same. If you go back to 2018, liquidity pools, cross-chain, financial infrastructure, decentralized. Nothing's really changed. It's just achieved that. It has the ecosystem has matured. It has pulled some certain strings in certain directions. Like streaming swaps is never part of the original vision, but that's an evolution of an idea. And there's various other little things that have changed, but fundamentally the protocol is as spec'd in 2018.
Wow, really interesting. The one thing that I'm kind of curious about is, just having followed your feed recently, and I love your attitude. I love the way that you have so much swagger, right? The wee glasses. Like, what is wee? What are the wee glasses? Are you gonna put them on?
Hey, Aria. My daughter's here. I'll see if she can get me my wee
She's cute as a button too. I saw a picture of her.
Aria, you anyway, I'll get them. So why? What was your question? Why are we doing all this?
Well, no. What are the wee glasses, and what is wee? Like, I see it, but I don't know anything about it.
So at the start of this year, I set up a crypto fund, and investment strategy was Bitcoin, L1s, ETH, and DeFi. And I set up all these multi-sigs with my other fund managers, and it was just a terrible experience, even for someone sophisticated like me. So I called up my old co-founder of THORchain and said, dude, we got to take THORchain's TSS and trust Wallet Core, which I helped Victor back in the day in 2017, kind of get that project off the rails and hand over to Binance and various other things. So Wallet Core is a really good open source library for wallet signing and infrastructure. So we took THORchain TSS, Wallet Core, jammed it together in about a month, myself and my co-founder. And we're like, let's roll it out. It's called VultiSig. So it's a multi-factor. Aria, can you get Daddy the wee glasses? It's bring the backpack. And then, so we jam the two together to create VultiSig. So it's an on-chain multi-factor wallet. So you start a transaction on one device and you co-sign it on another device. Like you log into your Gmail with multi-factor, you log into your bank account with multi-factor, but you log into your MetaMask with single sig. And like the chance of you losing a single private key or getting compromised just increases over time. Whereas multi-factor, like a true on-chain multi-factor, is what will allow you to safely keep your crypto online and secure from the bots. And that's how you're going to be paying the bots. And the bots are going to be everywhere. So we decided to do a novel launch, a liquidity launch. And to test the contracts, we decided to do a test launch on Base, really cheap chain. And my buddy at the time, Loy, who's like one of my supporters, investors, he said, why don't you just do an upside down meme? So wee. So like wee is like the upside down meme. And the community came out with the logo design. And then we launched it, and it was only going to be like $3,000 market cap, $10 in, test everything out. But it went crazy. I think it was like all-time high, like 30 million FTV or something crazy like that. And so I was like, all right, we're going to make this a thing. And then the community made the wee glasses, and it blew up. So we're using the wee glasses and the wee meme to like just pull a string there as well. And it's going to be a marketing funnel for VultiSig, which is just going to completely change wallets. I mean, I've got some pretty high-level investors in VultiSig. And it's like the final evolution of wallet, if done correctly, like multi-factor on-chain, multi-asset, multi-chain. That's as good as going to get. So we just need to build that out. So that's the Weeby glasses. So it was like this accidental meme coin launch, which came really big, and we're now using it as like a vector into Voltisig, which is the future of wallets. Done. By the way, you should download Voltisig. Go to voltisig.com.
I'm going to check out all this stuff this weekend. That was part of my plan. I figured after the conversation, I was going to learn a ton, and there's stuff that I wanted to dip into and really just because I'm someone, I was a teacher for 20 years, right? And I know I learn best by just doing something rather than trying to read about it or whatever. And it's taking that action. So I will definitely download the wallet. I will check it out. And it just seems like you're so, future facing and forward thinking about like what the industry needs and how you can solve some of those problems. So we are 10 minutes in. We have nearly 300 people watching. Thank you guys for those of you who are tuning in. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead. If you're watching on X, give it a repost, share it with.
We will have a store where you can buy the Weeby glasses. Dude, they are so funny. Like you just put them on and everything just becomes funny. So we want to do some crazy things like do like giveaways and charity stuff with these, and like put them at conferences and ultimately use it as a marketing funnel for Voltisig. But we can also have like a Weeby merch store where you can download shirts and hats, and I don't know, like we'll just keep pulling that string. But honestly, it's so funny.
They do look good. And at first, when I saw them, I couldn't tell if they were real glasses or if they were actually just something that like you had like in true meme fashion just kind of pasted on your face. And so then when I saw the picture of your daughter with them, I'm like, oh, these are actual physical glasses that he's wearing.
These things did not exist a month ago. That's the wildest thing. Like the community came up with these things. Just I didn't know it was like the Thug Life glasses, and somehow it got modified into this, and it in the space of like a day in the launch, and it was just I don't know. It's an emergent meme which we're pulling.
Well, it's really cool and a lot of fun. So I was, it's great to see on the timeline. I saw the Fight Club post the other day, and I started cracking up when they were all wearing them in the picture. So it's definitely something that I think, as the communities merge together, we'll probably start seeing a lot more. In fact, one of my friends, like on the timeline, he basically said something like, "You need some of the Weeby glasses because I have like these Coach Kuji kind of hater blockers that are big Oakleys that are like reddish purple." So I'll have to get a pair of those when those become available. Well, so we're now up to well over 300 people watching. So a lot of you guys can keep the comments rolling. We already saw some positive stuff come in, and so I'm just trying to display those as we have the conversation. So it seems like just from again reading over your timeline, did you step away from THORchain at one point and then come back somewhat recently? Like, because I know that you
So in 2013, I was when I first got into crypto. Then it was 2017 when I was building through it, and Bitcoin went that crazy pump to 20 grand. And at the time, I was just starting my build phase, and so I thought, no, I'm going to stay in. And then I went to the depths of the bear market, 2018, 19, and I thought, you know what, it's a 4-year cycle. I'm going to build hard. 2021, I'm out. See ya. So mentally, I was like, because I'd already done 2 cycles then, I was like, okay, this is my last cycle. I'm going to hand over THORchain. I'm going to find someone from the community. I'm just going to hand over 9 rooms. Away we go. So mentally, I'd said 2021, I'm out. Mentally, because it's just 24/7, 365. It can get to you. And so I checked towards the end of 2021. Everything hit the numbers. Everything went crazy. So took a whole bunch of finding liquidity after like 10 years, like 8 years being crypto. Took some out, bought the helicopter, blah blah blah, settled down. And I spent like a year just flying around the world and chilling out and doing crazy stuff or whatever. And then at the time, I'd handed over to 9 rooms and whatnot, the protocol, and done the plan obsolescence, the treasury, the socials, develop pipeline, blah, blah, blah. But then the protocol I just kept having to come back to the protocol and helping it. Streaming swaps were released in the depths of 2022, right? 2023, like a year ago, right? And there's since was 2 years prior to that. So I realized that the protocol wasn't there yet. It still had to be built. And there was a couple of things we still needed to do for the planned obsolescence. So coming into 2024, I kind of had, last year I had lost a lot of productivity. I'd kind of missed being so productive, like on the tools, building stuff, getting stuff done. And so towards the end of last year, I was like, I really miss being productive. Yeah, I'm wealthy now, but I'm not productive. So going into 2024, I went completely sober. I was vaping a lot last year, so I quit vaping. And I went completely clean, sober, carnivore diet, back into fitness. I thought, I'm going to make 2024 super productive. It's going to get back in the arena. I'm going to get out there and build. And I started with the VoltaSig product, started getting in the arena with THORchain and trying to work out how do we take THORchain from this protocol that's just crawling out of the bear market and take it to that, that crazy idea of it being one of the largest financial infrastructures in the world. So the last 6 months has just been grinding away. How do we get there? What do we need to solve? And it's been a really productive year. It's been really entertaining, and it's kept me on my feet, that's for sure. But it's the right thing to do. And this protocol is going to win, but we can win 10 times faster now.
Yeah, it seems, I mean, you clearly are beloved by your community, right? And like I said, one of the first times I started really paying attention when the talks were happening between you and Kujira, I remember replying to something about just I like the way you live out loud. You just seem so in the face of life and just giving it your all. And that's something that really resonated with me personally. I'll be 49 in a couple weeks, and I'm just grateful for every day and really just try my best to help people and just the way that you're building. Hey, cutie.
Yeah. So the other thing as well is I built THORchain under this just a Twitter and a Discord account, right? So I wasn't public at all for the first 6 years, and there was a number of really good reasons why that was the case. And I had always realized I was going to hand over the Lena account and dox it and get out once the obsolescence had happened. And I thought, now's this year. Chad had to take a sabbatical for various reasons, and the original team had necessarily handed over as a proof of decentralization. So I thought, now's as good a time as anything. I don't have any further control on the protocol or unilateral large access to treasuries and stuff like that. So now's the time. But I had a lot of I'd been stuck behind a Twitter account for 6 years and a Discord account called Lena. And I just had all this crazy energy to just get out there and just show my real face and get out there. So there we go. So that's why. But I'm glad I did it. And honestly, I don't have much. When things happen on the protocol these days, it's because I campaign, right? I don't control anymore. I campaign ADRs and tweets and push and that's the correct way, because that's the long-term resilient way for sure. So yeah, we're in the arena. We're building hardcore. There is so much stuff coming down, right? I tweeted yesterday, THORchain's won. It honestly has. If you look at the integrations that's coming in the next 6 to 12 months, we've landed our first major integration at the start of this year, Trust Wallet. And then since then, it's just been we were trying for so long to land our first wallet partners. Just we had obviously our ecosystem partners like THORswap, Thor Wallet, and whatnot. Shapeshift was actually our first biggest one. And they were credit to them, they were there early on. And then we landed Edge Wallet. Then there's a couple more. Then we landed Trust Wallet, which is huge. And then being the biggest mobile wallet. And then it's just started boom, 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 boom. Zengo and the list. I mean, just start watching all the affiliate fees pop up. You will see them testing before they make the announcements. So if you want alpha, just track for new affiliates. Boom. I can basically say in the next 12 months, all of them.
What's the best place to track the new affiliates? Is it just the main THORchain website to kind of keep up with these news as these integrations are coming?
Yeah, RuneScan will show them for sure. Now, back in when we first designed it, we always thought that centralized exchanges would wrap THORchain for liquidity transfers. But what ended up actually happening is all the centralized exchanges have rolled out Web3 wallets because they recognize that the future is the Web3 playground. Coinbase have a layer 2 and a wallet. Binance has a layer 2 and a wallet. OKX, Crypto.com, blah, blah, blah. They all have these kind of Web3 environments, and they actually all want the users to go on chain. They all want the users to go on chain because there's less regulation on chain, right? There's massive amounts of regulation on a centralized database with licensing and blah, blah, blah. But it's a lot more free when you put users on chain. So actually the incentives are there to put them all on chain. And as soon as they go on chain, they're going to want THORchain. Sorry. THORchain's won for sure.
We are about 20 minutes in, so we're going to pivot a little bit to Kujira. We are just coming up on 500 people watching us live. So thank you for everybody who is tuning in. Again, if you are watching on X, go ahead and repost the space. Try and get some more eyes on here. JP is a great guest so far. I'm learning a ton about THORchain. And so let's pivot a little bit to Kujira, because you just kind of alluded to the fact that in the next 6 to 12 months, a lot's going to change for THORchain with, some of the things you've already talked about on the recent space, for instance. We know that IBC and CosmWasm is going to come, and then that's what's going to begin the migration for Kujira. I'm assuming that Levana will be coming on board also for the perps and stuff.
Yes.
One of the things, go ahead.
So I'll get straight into it. So THORchain was first developed on pre-beta software, like it was alpha software back in 2018, even before Atom Hub launch. And because we spent a lot of time, it's a custom implementation. Like we ripped out the governance module and replaced it with our own, which we think is better. And the Cosmos community should fork our governance operations. We designed our own asynchronous upgrade, so we didn't need a hard fork so many times. In fact, we're doing our second only hard fork next week ever in the 3-4 years of the chain. So we did a whole bunch of custom stuff. Some of that custom stuff we're kind of undo right now because we want to be more compatible. But as a result, we've been always behind in the upgrades because to upgrade the chain takes a lot of effort. So we've never, and the chain has been really, I mean, it's a hard chain. It's really hard to get cross-chain done correctly. And we just took a long time to hit stability, and we probably hit stability like 3 months ago. So now we're like, okay, let's upgrade. And so we're upgrading straight to a couple of times to get the latest IBC and CosmWasm. And then we're going, well, how are we going to actually, are we just going to let developers start deploying contracts? And then literally 2 weeks ago, I started getting tagged on Twitter about Kujira, and I looked into it, and I just saw a massive, I mean, I always knew about Kujira this, because you stay in, you get a finger on the pulse, but never really looked into it because it's so focused on THORchain and whatnot. But I started looking into it. I was like, hang on a minute. And I looked at the code and I was like, this is actually a pretty epic ecosystem. And the story was, collecting most of the Terra builders when Terra imploded, migrated to an L1. So it's a very resilient, highly engaged, hardcore, punching from the above builder community, which is what I love, because that's honestly, it aligns really well with THORchain's community. So the two communities just get along like a house on fire, to be honest. And because we're not no one's king made us, right? Like we're not, it hasn't been knighted over because we've had to just grind away to build this stuff, right? And so it was pretty easy decision to go, you know what, I'll step in, underwrite the debt sale, and get going. And to me, it's if I came in and helped these, it's actually an investment. So I basically bought, I don't know, 30 cents Kujira tokens, which are locked up until the migration happens. But it's an investment because then I get to work with the builder community to drive value into that token, which is my investment. And so I can see that doing I don't know, 5-10x. So putting up the capital to underwrite the debt sale is going to be a pretty good investment over the next 5 years, in my opinion, because I'll be in the weeds with the boys and the crew delivering, and it's going to win.
That's actually, one of the things that I was personally attracted to, because I came to Kujira late. It's only been about a year for me. And as someone who is, admittedly, I'm not a major DeFi power user. I like to consider myself a DeFi dabbler. But the thing that immediately attracted to me to Kujira was that everything was right in one place. I had a money market for lending. I could do the LP provision on Bo. I had the decentralized order book. Manta DAO had built out the just a kind of regular swap. There's just so many features that are right there all in one place. Whereas, and this is a problem as a builder, right? So many things in crypto are fragmented. Liquidity is all over the place because you got to go here for the money market. You got to transfer something here to do this or that. And that's what I loved about Kujira immediately, is that everything is there. And so to think about it becoming an L2 on THORchain, and just the possibilities that that's going to unleash in terms of the native liquidity that you're already garnering on THORchain. And then now on top of just the bips, just so all the more funds that are going to come into the ecosystem.
100%. So take that amazing, clean, well integrated, good user experience, one per vertical. So it's not this crazy high entropy environment. It's an orderly environment. That's what's going to come to THORchain, and Kujira's going to, and we'll work with Levana and some other teams to bring their protocols in and different verticals. But we don't want two AMMs that live on top. We don't want two money markets. Just work with the best teams to deliver the best money market and focus liquidity on that. We don't want to bifurcate it up. So that's the approach, and just do it properly. So every contract audited, every contract security checked, every contract economically assessed to make sure it's sharing base layer fees and whatnot. So we're just going to do it right the first time.
So you talked, I mean, this is kind of a question that I was probably going to ask later, but it seems like it fits really well right here. We talked about how Kujira is going to be effectively an L2 on THORchain. Will Levana also be an independent L2 that doesn't, or is it all going to be just one L2 and that'll have different dApps on it that are integrated through that
So
infrastructure?
IBC wasm layer, or COSM wasm, whatever you want to call it, is a execution layer that lives in the THORchain state machine that executes against the logic for how assets are handled are not written in the X module. They're written in a separate execution environment, if that kind of makes sense. And like you can deploy code that execute deterministically. And it's actually in Rust, whereas the main binary is in Go, whatever. But so it's not really an L2, it's more of an app layer. It's more of an easy way to get new logic into the state machine that has deterministic inputs and deterministic outputs against the assets of the chain. But we're going to like design like right hooks between the L1 pools and what they can be done at this kind of app layer. And then the app layer can actually export these assets out into other chains. So we're also got that going on. Yeah, so that's what we're building. And look, it's so like the way you can see Levana, if Levana came and built a perps protocol, they would be using these kind of virtual assets, but the base quote asset or the P&L cash margin account would be in like USDC or USDT. And then there would be a price feed, which allows you to virtually create these leverage positions, which would then, there'd be a funding rate, a leverage, like a liquidation and blah, blah, blah. So got a whole bunch of stuff going on there. So, but they would be, you could theoretically like deploy a trade on like Thin and then go into a leverage position on Levana in one hook. So theoretically, everything's kind of like can talk to each other.
Wow. So that'll be pretty amazing in terms of interoperability and just having.
Yeah, and like we will give the developers access to a bunch of asset types like trade assets, Rune, perhaps even like LP tokens. And so like the Kujira team might even build lending markets against your LP positions for THORchain LP positions, which means you'll be able to like deploy LP into THORchain and then borrow against it in some manner. But the logic for all that will be done at the app layer and not at the base layer.
Incredible. And I'm assuming that this also just protects it from a security position too, because it's done at the app layer. And if something were to happen, it's separate from the actual base chain. Because that seems like, just listening to you on this space, you wanted to try and keep the THORchain base layer as that one thing that only does the one thing very well. And then have
so we do THORchain base layer should do swaps and liquidity. And we should do like money markets lending and all that kind of stuff and perps at the higher level. So that would be the plan to sunset like that kind of stuff at the base layer and just focus on bringing in liquidity and swapping over the top and everything else done at the app layer. And yeah, that's how we'll do it.
So in the one vertical approach that you've mentioned several times, both on the TL and then in other spaces, stuff like that, will there be room for products to live within that one vertical? Like a good example I'm thinking of is Ghost, right? Like that was probably, to me, my favorite dApp on Kujira, just because as someone who has a diversified crypto portfolio, I like the fact that you could lend out your assets. You could mint USK back then. I know USK is eventually going to be sunset. But, for instance, there's NAMI protocol, which was a savings protocol that was being built that was going to be on top of Ghost that was algorithmically going to then maximize your yield between the different stablecoin positions, depending on how their lend usage was affecting Ghost and the rates. So would something like, even though that's in the same vertical, would those kinds of teams be able to still build their dApps on top of the existing infrastructure of Kujira?
Yeah, 100%. We'll work with Kujira team to migrate all the builder community around the core apps. And yeah, let's see what happens. We want to make sure it's like a curated, audited, secure environment. So there's no funny business or no potential hacks that could like jeopardize the base layer and someone could steal a whole bunch. Can you just imagine like one of the a whole bunch of TVL getting hacked out of a THORchain app layer product and then like swapping it all out to Bitcoin and like the FUD that would create. So we just want to have like high quality code, audited, properly done, no crazy risks. So just keep and do it well, do it correctly. Yeah.
We are about halfway into our conversation, and I am just absolutely flabbergasted right now. There's roughly 700 people watching us, JP. You are the man of the hour, that's for sure. People want to hear you. Thank you for everybody who has tuned in so far, depending on when you jumped into the conversation. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and repost the space. Let's get even more eyeballs on this and show how strong the THORchain Kujira community, or Ruji or Rujira, is becoming, because I feel like this fusion is something huge.
It's going to be so exciting. So like if you look at the next 5 years, well, we're going to, right now the protocol's throwing up the fees. So we just went from, so we discovered over the last years that because before streaming swaps, I think our average bips was about 10. So we're happy with that. Then we rolled out streaming swaps a year ago, and the bips went straight down to like 5, and below that for the SYN swaps. So we've bumped it to 5 to enforce it, and then we just tripled it to 15. And we want to just dial up those fees and make this network profitable, because it literally makes a lot of money. It makes a lot of money, actually. And we want to make sure that yield is being paid back to LPs and nodes, and to grow this network. And if the network is profitable, then it can afford everything. I mean, that system income and the ADRA team, which kind of like streams it off to like this kind of like ecosystem fund, that's going to like this network already pays for itself. And so we want a really mature IBC WASM layer with a whole bunch of apps and verticals to build this kind of developer community at that level, and turn THORchain into with the help of Kujira, the flagship implementation of Cosmos, IBC, and WASM. And QG will probably by default the biggest token living at the app layer. And you could probably even just say that QG's valuation is like 10 to 20% of THORchain's valuation at any given time. Well, let's just see what happens. And so like the two communities will grow together. It'd be an interesting idea to actually one day merge the app layer token into the base layer token. The reason why I suggest this is because there is a large reserve that funds the block rewards, but all the nodes want to turn the block rewards off. So once we dial up the fees, there's 80 million rune worth. What's that, like, I don't know, $4. So $300 million worth of rune right now in the reserve that could get turned off and locked up. So in the future, like 3 or 4 years in the future, like the thought could be, why don't we use that reserve to buy out the app layer token? And so now it's just a single asset across everywhere. I like that. Could be a very interesting idea that the protocol has within its initiative to do. But yeah, there's so much. The design surface of THORchain is crazy. We just have to, and just like hooking up to Solana, Base, L2s, TON, like getting more liquidity in the network through liquidity auctions, Rune Pool, liquidity zapping, active yield. So active yield is an idea that when you LP, instead of your yield being trapped in the pool all the time, forcing you to compare your current position with your original position, so like LP versus HODL and IL, with active yield, it pays you a cash payout block by block based on your current principal. So instead, you'll be looking at your cash backs all the time against your current principal, which will always be positive. And you can nominate to receive your active yield in like Rune, Stables, Bitcoin itself, whatever. And the protocol actually has a yield collection module we built it for the affiliates. So it will take your yield for the affiliates and stream it out to you on an L1 address on a gas efficient interval. So you're not going to get it all swallowed up in gas fees. It will actually hold off, wait till it's like 100x the outbound cost, and then send it out. That's already built. So we have there's no limit to the kind of active yield, auto streaming, active yielding we can do on this protocol to like massively change the user experience. We're just scratching the surface.
I'm almost at a loss for words at this point, because you're kind of blowing my mind with all the different things you guys have planned. One of the things I forgot to ask you earlier, and when you said something about this pool that actually incentivizes the nodes currently that has roughly 80 million rune in it, I saw on the timeline the other day that you had like 60 million at some point that you just like burned.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah. So when we migrated the asset from Binance chain to its own chain, we didn't have any of the multi-sig set up. So there was this wallet we set up to have the reserve, the full reserve. And I was dribbling that back into the reserve. But at some point, we realized that the reserve was too big and we didn't want to. So we called this giant wallet, which was just like a Genesis emission. So I held custody of that for 6 years. And then we didn't know what to do with it. And so I basically wrote wrote the ADR to just burn it all. So if it's too dangerous for me to hold on to it, just burn it and then let the protocol figure out what it wants to do with. So
all I can think of is the Elmo meme, like chaos, you know, with the flames burning all the rune.
It was just way too much room for any individual or any set of nodes. Or we did think about selling it to investors, but we thought, like, what's that going to achieve when the protocol knows what it needs to do? It's got enough money to do that. And like just like we don't want anyone having that access to that much rune actually. So we just burnt it. So got rid of it. But yeah, I had to hold that wallet for 6 years.
Crazy. What a story. So you know, just listening to how the nodes themselves, so they wanted to shut off the actual rewards. Is that something that's going to happen?
Well, yeah. So like
stabilize the fees, and if
yeah, so like everyone wants to well, the network has to be sustainable, but this giant reserve, which originally was 120 million rune, and today it's 80 million rune. So right now you can do the math. So it's 80 divided by 8. So right now it emits 10 million rune into the protocol every year. So 10 million rune is worth like $30 million being dumped through the pools. Half of it goes to the nodes, the other half goes to the pools, of which half of that is then sold into the asset. So if we can turn off the block rewards and only run on fees, then that's crazy. Like it's not only a finite asset, but also now it's kind of deflationary because we've actually got a burn percent 1 bips, and we can increase that. That basically burns out of the system income all the time. So if we turn off the block rewards, we keep 80 million rune there for more options, and we don't need to like it will just stop inflation. So make the actual asset deflationary, which then will get people excited.
It certainly will, because I mean, I know that one of the premises that I liked, especially as sort of again a Bitcoiner at heart, is the fact that Kujira, the token, the entire circulation was out there. There was no inflation or anything like that. And it seems like THORchain is now already in that position, but heading toward a deflationary future.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's true. Like the last investor was invested 3 years ago, or 2.5 years ago. The treasury's got about 10 million rune. And then the reserve has 80 million, which just bleeds out programmatically. The treasury has delegates like 3 or 4 nodes around the community for core infrastructure like RuneScan and THORchain.net and THORchain.network and blah, blah, blah. And then that's really it. The treasury also has like an LP position that's been in there from day 0 to be like a LP of last resort. But that's really it. Like all the runes circulating. So there's no like unlock schedule or anything. It's just literally, all right, let's just start making this network print. And yeah, we're about to see it start printing, that's for sure. Especially when we build this app layer. So all the app layer volume is net on top of already what's happening. And so like if we bring perps on, that's going to like 5x THORchain's volumes. Like because we get to include all the perp volume plus all like Kujira fin volume and whatnot. So like it's just, this thing's going to get like, we're going to be having $1 billion volume days. I'm telling you right now. And that's just $1 billion of volume on like 300 million in TVL. It's just going to blow people's minds. It will be just crazy. And it's going to print so much in fees. Nodes and LPs ideally will be, printed. So you want to be in now for sure.
I know, like I'm already getting excited thinking like, how do I LP? Just in terms of, because it seems like it really incentivizes those who want to, kind of put up the liquidity, help the network grow and everything else. So it's a genius model that you guys have clearly thought out, in great detail. We're coming up at about the 40-minute mark. We're transitioning to that final third of the show. We have almost 800 people watching us now. Come on, guys, let's get to 1,000. 1,000 people need to hear JP. And so if you haven't already, please go ahead, repost the space. Thank you for dropping in comments. I've been trying to display them as they come up. So what I did when I put out like my little 30-second video notice on my feed on Wednesday, as I solicited questions from the community, just kind of getting them to ask things that maybe they didn't get a chance to ask on the first space that you had with the team when Pragmatic Monkey was kind of co-hosting earlier. And so we're just going to go through some of those questions. If there are additional questions that you guys are watching right now, and maybe we didn't get to those questions, go ahead and you can drop those in the comments. We'll try and get to them if we have time. one of the first questions that I have to ask, because it was literally the first question that was asked when I put these out, and I just kind of made this all call for questions, but I'm also a fellow Wink holder. So there is the team is called the Wink team, and they are building an NFT marketplace called Kujira. They were really right about to launch it on the testnet version of Kujira before all this started happening. And so one of the things that many of my fellow Winkers are wondering is, are we going to see Kujira still show up on Kujira, and that will become the one sort of NFT marketplace for THORchain?
For sure. So THORchain, we released the original collectibles back in 2020 or something. There's also Thor gods, and there's a few others in the ecosystem. I was actually thinking the other day of upgrading our router v5 into router v5.1 to allow people to deposit and burn out the old NFTs, and they will get minted into THORchain's NFT layer. And that would be epic to then manage those NFTs on THORchain itself, those original collectibles. That would be pretty epic. For sure. So like an NFT marketplace, let's do it.
One of the other things too, just to give you some information, is that they want, I'm maybe speaking out of turn for the Wink team, but my understanding is that Kujira will actually use sort of the same mechanism that Pilot uses to prevent like the botting of NFT collections. So that way people will actually kind of get guaranteed a mint, and it'll be rolled out in a much more programmatic process rather than, bots. Because like we see this on Stargaze, for instance, where you have the whitelist, people get a few NFTs, and then all of a sudden, as soon as it goes live to public, bots just take them all out, and they're just trying to flip them immediately. And they really were trying to build this with the community in mind when they started putting all this together. So really exciting news. I'm sure everybody who is a Wink holder is very excited about this, because part of the current iteration, although this may change with the THORchain integration, is that some of those those who stake the Wink will get some of the fees that are generated in those NFT sales. Those will go back to the Wink stakers. Again, that may change depending on how like this app integration follows, but it's exciting to know that it will actually take place, and it will be the sort of the sole NFT marketplace, Kujira. All right, next. Now this one was contentious because I known as being just friendly to everybody. And some people were like, oh, I can't believe you're going to ask this question. But still, are you aware of Shrimp Club NFTs? And Joni would like you to get one and join. So that was just one question I had to put out there. That came in. That was the second question from Joni. Have you ever heard of Shrimp Club? Do you even know?
I started to see a whole bunch of shrimpers in my replies. So
they're quite loud. Yes. Okay. So Sumo said that you've talked in interviews about the weaknesses of order books. Have your thoughts changed on that recently?
So centralized limit order books are a hangover from basically legacy FI, and the fact that you had to like put your stock certificates in an exchange, and they would be represented these slips put up through these market makers, market takers, and then sold on an order book, right? And that order book was just a messy implementation of buy-sell markets, when I think the more sophisticated way to represent liquidity is through the mathematical definition of liquidity, which is like constant function, or even like concentrated liquidity, which is basically the constant function curve, but shifted slightly. So like mathematical liquidity makes way more sense than limit order books, because limit order books are naturally centralizing, and they will basically give an edge up to people. However, I prefer, just like how we rolled out streaming swaps as like a game changer on constant product liquidity and made it hyper competitive and capital efficient. I actually wish like Uniswap would give me streaming swaps, rather than just dumping all at once and getting front run by bots and whatnot. But also it's the like price conditional swaps is like a variant of limit orders that actually work well across constant product liquidity pools. So you can be streaming a large swap across, and then someone puts a price conditional streamer back, and soon as the liquidity is pushed in a direction to trigger the price conditional swap, then it'll go back. So it's not a true limit order, but it gets executed fully at if a streaming swap is streaming across at a certain price, and then it triggers a price conditional streamer in the inverse direction, you're basically going to have the streamers completely fill each other at that exact price, like that, which is basically a limit order. So in that sense, that reason makes sense. And so we're looking forward to rolling out limit orders. We do have an implementation for the base layer limit orders, but we can also do limit orders at the app layer. We just have to like work our way through the pros and cons of that, and who gets to do it. But limit orders on THORchain will enable ARBs to hold better price execution. So when they see a giant wrapped Bitcoin unswap, they can just literally set something at like 3 bips away, and then as soon as the price moves 3 bips or whatever, boom, they get filled. And by the way, that is going to massively improve the user experience because a streaming swap meeting a price conditional swap in the inverse direction will get instantly executed, right? It'll just be like done. And so like a streaming swap, which might take 6 hours or whatever, or like an hour, if it hits a price conditional swap in the inverse direction, it could be done instantly. So it could be a big user experience improvement for THORchain. So all these things have to just be done correctly. Don't do things for the sake of doing things. Do things with a reason. So try and understand from first principles what these features are, and then work out how they can actually build a cohesive strategy.
Awesome. Yeah, it's some of the stuff you're talking about, and just I can't wait to really dig in and better understand the THORchain architecture just for my own nerdy self. We already talked a little bit about wallets, but and of course you may have already seen this. Kujira developed their own wallet, this mobile wallet, Sonar. And so somebody had asked, are there any plans to integrate the Sonar wallet in
How many users have they got?
I wouldn't know like the exact number. I'm sure the team would know like how many users there are.
Comment how many users Sonar's got. Like send them my way. I might acquire them. I'm looking to buy wallets at the moment.
Okay, I mean, I think it was developed by the core team, so just maybe ask them, and they could probably tell you. I'm sure Code Hans, you know, the genius who's just locked in the room and just coding away all the time. Okay, so
Code Hans is such like he reminds me. He's a cross between Johnny and Chad, the previous co-founders for THORchain. So Johnny was just this crazy unicorn builder who just built. And he would like go in the weeds and ship. Like THORchain got delivered because thanks to Johnny and Chad, and there's a few other people as well that were like critical to like shipping it. And then you got Chad is like also high entropy and understands like the full architecture and also will code away like a unicorn dev. And Code Hans seems to be like the merge of those two people together. So I can't wait to get in the weeds with Hans and start shipping some cool stuff, because we're going to work well together.
Shout out to Brett and Amit as well. Brett obviously does a lot of the front end stuff, and Amit is just like, he's revered as well, very much in the ecosystem. So in conjunction to the Sonar question, this was also came in by extension. Could Sonar eventually merge with Vultisig? This would allow functionality with existing Kujira dApps while also providing security and features.
100%, 100%. Send them my way. Let's talk. I'm looking for I'm looking for 100,000 users. So send them my way.
All right, awesome. Any future plans for collaboration with Galactic Mining Club? This is, I don't own this NFT, but I know it is a very strong community in the Cosmos ecosystem. This came from one of the users in the questions to
send them my way. While I've got everyone on the call, like there's a couple other things that for THORchain's architecture I thought might drop bomb as well. So one, it churns nodes every 3 days, and these nodes are anonymous. Every 3 days it kicks out the oldest node, the baddest node, and the lowest bond node. And when it churns those vaults, it proves it can spend the money and it proves it has the money. And like, forget proof of reserves. What about proof of solvency? So like all these ETFs and exchanges that go, oh yeah, here's our multi-sig. Well, actually spend the damn thing, because there's been a number of cases where like the CEOs of Chinese exchanges get locked up and nobody can access the funds and blah, 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 right? So THORchain every 3 days proves reserves and solvency, which is like the critical part that's missing for proof of reserves is solvency, that you can actually spend the funds. It's anonymous. It has a flat voting structure. It's got an incentive pendulum that pays liquidity and security on a curve. That's critical. Like I see like Chain raising 400 million for like this kind of like incentive pendulum liquidity security thing between consensus and liquidity. Dude, we built that 6 years ago. I mean, thanks. You can copy it. But it's like come on. Or like THORchain's affiliate fees. I see A16Z or what I've put out this idea that you can have affiliate fees where a certain interface will give a user like a cashback or like a security staking. Like that was built like 3 or 4 years ago. Like like these all these interfaces wrap the protocol, and they get to insert the affiliate fees, which goes into like the various staking modules and whatnot. So like all this stuff is done for so long. Just copy the code. I don't care. It's the right design. I mean, I see a whole bunch of narrative at the moment. Oh, AVSs are going to be like the new wrap Bitcoin because they have really scalable security. No, on an AVS, you're still going to be trusting logos behind operators, in front of operators, because those operators are not putting a single dollar at stake. So you'll end up having to trust the logo that they're not going to rug you and you get slashed. So like, no, AVS is not the golden solution for wrap Bitcoin or like a decentralized exchange. You're still going to have rugging risk on that infrastructure. The correct design is THORchain, and it will stand the test of time. And also, it has an equity asset. That equity asset is called Rune. So if you actually think this network is going to perform well and accrue value and fees, you can buy it, and you can like participate in security and liquidity. And that equity asset is not only does hardcore consensus security, but also does the liquidity plumbing of the network. It's like it's correctly designed, and it will stand the test of time.
Okay, so we are at 940 people watching. We have about 10 minutes to go. Let's get it to 1,000 people. If you haven't already shared the space, please do so. Your daughter is so cute. I'm smiling because she's in a pink tutu behind you, like going back and forth between the screen. Maybe they're tuning in to watch her, but it looks so
You
dang
think
cute.
I'm high energy? Aria just bounces off the walls. I love her.
Well, I'm sure she gets it from dad, right? Like you're clearly a high energy guy, which I love. Do you know any? Okay, so I already talked about NAMI protocol, so I'm sure the team will reach out because I already asked that question. So speaking of wallets, you were asking about Sonar. Somebody had asked the approximate number of unique active wallets on THORchain in the last month.
Yeah, you probably jump in RuneScan, but there's probably like at least 30, 40, 50. Yeah. I mean, there's more coming. Like every single wallet will implement SwapKit or THORchain directly.
Cool. So this one we kind of already talked about a little bit too. Will Levana perps launch on Kujira, or will be separate L2 infra that launches and that
It'll be a separate app. It'll be a separate app, but inside THORchain's app layer.
That app layer, yeah. Okay, cool. Somebody asked if there are any meetups, and I know this is very early because of the integration, but are there going to be any meetups, hackathons, or conferences planned where both Kujira and THORchain people can attend, kind of bring the communities together, merge them, let them meet each other, and so on and so forth?
It's a good idea. It's a good idea to create like a THORchain-centric conference. Yeah, I mean, maybe next year we might do something somewhere in the world. See how we go.
Okay, awesome. This question came in while we were actually speaking earlier. So is THORchain permissioned or permissionless?
Anyone can join the network. So it's truly is permissionless. There's no fund access backdoor keys. I mean, Crypto Sailor here in the chat, I can see, has been in the community since day zero. And like he's ready. Ask him. There is no backdoors to THORchain. I mean, there's like node keys and there's like admin keys that can adjust like pause flags in case something blows up. But nobody can access the funds except the nodes themselves, and the nodes can't access the funds unless they coordinate through the churning and the TX out. So it's completely permissionless. If you can literally split up a node with one rune today, and if you get like 299,000 rune bonded to you from the community, you might get churned in, and boom, you'll have full access to the vaults and the state machine, and away you go.
Crazy. Okay. So this just was I thought a really great comment from Peter Skater. Crazy entrepreneurial mindset, brings people along with him, creates the excitement, enthusiasm we needed on Kujira. I can see that all day. I saw it very early on the timeline. This is why, and I'm very grateful to even have this conversation with you, JP, because you clearly are a leader. I immediately, like I said, I loved your energy and what you were trying to bring. And I feel like this fusion is going to unlock a lot of possibilities. My wife, I think, is even watching now because she even said, she's a PE teacher, by the way, and she said she needs a rock wall. Before you know it, she's going to be climbing all over the house.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And then, as someone already warned, not financial advice, of course, better have your Rune and Kuji stacked.
It is financial advice.
So we have about 5 minutes left. We're closing in on 1,000 people actually watching this live stream.
Like it was the correct decision. I mean, it was a bit of a gut feeling decision 2 weeks ago. Like I said, I was in New York at the time. People pinging me, have a Kujira, and I initially I was trying to crowdfund it. I said I'll put 250 in and like bring some more in. So I did get some deposits in, and then when I took the call with the team, when I did some more dive, then I upped it to $1 million, and then I took another call with the team. gave them some more terms about like base protocol fee sharing and migration timelines and stuff like that. Originally, I was just going to like underwrite them, put $1 million in, and send them on the merry way. But then they kept asking for more, and like, no, let's entertain the idea of doing a proper merge over and migrate, because they wanted access to THORchain's L1 liquidity, because Kujira's got all the crazy builder community, but liquidity anemic, whereas THORchain has like 250 mil of L1 liquidity, which is there for the playing. Like, it's a playground of liquidity. So if you can bring your apps, you can touch all that liquidity and do crazy stuff with it. For sure. So the discussions kept advancing, and in 3 days later, we had an agreement signed, and I said I was going to underwrite it, and I did. And I've got some nice cheap Kujira, which I got a Kujira equity stake, and let's go.
Yeah, and we are just about to cross 1,000 people. We're at 999. We're at 1,001. I cannot believe that we've had 1,000 people on this live stream today. Cannot thank you enough. I know we have a couple of minutes to just kind of wrap up the conversation. And so, again, super grateful for you taking the time, JP. Really enjoyed watching your daughter like in the background too. It's added something to it that I did not expect. But any closing thoughts, just final words of wisdom, ways that people can reach out, get in touch, anything like that you want to just kind of close out?
Yeah, just keep on Twitter. Honestly, like, the future of decentralized liquidity has just started. Honestly, like someone's going to build a deconstructed Binance that is going to serve all the needs for it. We wanted to build like lending and saving all at the base layer, but now with Kujira, we can safely build it at the higher level. We've got a partnership with Noble USDC, so we're going to have a really safe stablecoin on the layer 2. By the way, there was an early nervousness in the early years about what would happen when the government shut it down, blah, blah, blah. We always maintain the position that THORchain is not a mixer. You can see the inbounds, you can see the outbounds. In fact, it's the first large significant cross-chain transactional graph that allows someone like address trackers to see people flying over all these cross chains. So it's actually like a useful thing. And we've kind of answered the question sources over the last 12 months that the regulators like our healthy relationship. And there is address screening at the interface layers, as there should be, but there's no expectation for address screening at the base layer, partly because it'll be extremely difficult to try and coordinate 100 nodes to do address screening in any way. And two, it would just destroy this network outright if that happens, and risk a lot of users' capital. So, but that's never going to, at this point in time, there's no expectation to do that. And the screening happens at the interface layer, exactly like Uniswap interface and Uniswap the protocol. So we kind of answered that question, sources, that this is a good protocol and is looked favorably upon. Wink. So we can just go guns blazing now and just build.
I'm sure the Wink team is going to love the fact that you actually said wink and you actually winked. Just got to put that out there. But JP, thank you so much for taking the time today. Really, really, really enjoyed the conversation. I thank you for everybody who has tuned in, whether from the Kujira or the THORchain community, or as we merge together the Rujira community. I hope everybody who's watching this has a wonderful weekend. You especially, JP. Enjoy the time with your family. Thank you for making this, taking the time out of your very busy schedule to have this conversation with me. Can't thank you enough. I'm here to help however I can, and really look forward to having you on my primary job, because I know I want to have you on our podcast as well to talk about all these cool things. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next time on Coach's Corner. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.